Imagine a land of endless grasslands where the Shona people began their epic journey. This is Guruuswa, their enchanted homeland. But colonial powers tried to erase its story by burning and banning books. Today, we unveil the Mbire Dynasty's migration and how the Shona kept Guruuswa alive. Welcome to Unveiling the Mbire Dynasty, the epic migration that shaped Shona history. Hit that subscribe button and let's dive in. The roots of Guruuswa, where it all began. Imagine a vast open land covered in swaying grasslands, stretching as far as the eye can see. This is Guruuswa, the legendary homeland of the Shona people. According to oral traditions, Guruuswa is where the Shona first came into being as a distinct group. Guruuswa, the enchanted homeland. Guruuswa, meaning long grass in Shona, is the legendary birthplace of the Shona people. Just to clarify, while Shona is a relatively modern umbrella term that wasn't originally used by the ancestors of the people it now describes, it has become a practical and widely understood label in academic, cultural, and public contexts. So I'm sticking with Shona in this context. It is a smart and effective choice, especially when communicating complex ideas to a broad or global audience. Where exactly was Guruuswa? Scholars like Tabona Shoko place it north of the Zambezi River, possibly in the abundant grasslands of East Central Africa, around the African Great Lakes region. Some, like James L. Cox, pinpoint it in modern-day Tanzania, while others, like Chirevo Kwenda, describe it as a mythical cradle of life itself, not just for the Shona, but for all humanity. For the Shona, Guruuswa isn't just a dot on a map. Guruuswa isn't just a physical place. It's a sacred idea, a place of beginnings where ancestors like Mambiri and Isantovera first walked the earth. It's tied to their creator, God, Mwari, and the Mondoro spirits who bring rain, fortune, guidance, and victory in war. Think of it as a spiritual wellspring, a place that pulses with the energy of creation and connection to the divine. Oral traditions passed down through generations describe Guruuswa as a land of beginnings, where humans, animals, plants all trace their roots. It's a place of myth and memory, a spiritual wellspring that the Shona carried in their hearts as they migrated south. While books containing detailed accounts of Guruuswa may have been banned or burned, especially during colonial times when European powers sought to suppress African histories, the Shona's stories, songs, and rituals have preserved its essence. The Mbire Dynasty and migration. Around 2000 years ago, the Shona's ancestors began a remarkable journey. As part of the Bantu migration, a massive movement of Bantu-speaking peoples across Africa left Guruuswa and headed south. The Shona's migration wasn't a single event, but a slow, steady wave that spread their culture and language across the region. It was a gradual, centuries-long journey driven by the search for fertile land, water, and resources like salt. They likely started in the Congo Basin or near the African Great Lakes, heading toward what is now Zimbabwe and parts of Mozambique, South Africa, and Zambia. Oral traditions describe them as descendants of legendary figures like Mbire, whose son Tovera and later descendant Murenga Sororenzo are celebrated as a legendary figure whose fighting spirit inspired later generations, especially during Zimbabwe's liberation struggles. The Mbire weren't just wanderers, they were skilled farmers, herders, and iron workers with a deep spiritual connection to their ancestors and the creator god Mwari. The first migrations crossing the Zambezi. The Mbire's migration kicked into high gear between 1000 and 1050 AD, seeking fertile lands. Crossing the Zambezi River was a major milestone in Shona history. This move brought them into the Zimbabwe Plateau, a land of rolling hills and rich soils, perfect for farming and grazing. They didn't arrive in an empty land. Earlier groups like the Hungwe lived there, but the Mbire, with their advanced skills and organization, gradually took over. Why did they move? Some stories say they were drawn by the promise of fertile land and resources like salt, which was precious in those days. One story tells of Nyakatonje, a traveler who introduced the Mbire leader Mutota to salt, sparking curiosity about new lands. Mutota, often seen as the first leader of the Shona, then known as the Mbire Dynasty, led his people south, crossed the Zambezi River, and established the foundations of what would become the Mutapa Empire. The Mbire brought with them skills in farming, ironwork, and stone building, which would soon shape new life, including crops like sorghum and millet, cattle for herding, and iron tools. They also carried their spiritual traditions with spirit mediums, Shikiro, channeling ancestors to guide their path. These mediums were like bridges to Guruuswa, keeping the Mbire connected to their roots. Mbire power and organization. As they settled in the Zimbabwe Plateau, the Shona found a land of plenty, perfect for grazing cattle, growing crops like millet and sorghum, and mining gold and ivory. This rich environment fueled the rise of powerful kingdoms like the Mutapa Empire and later the Rose Empire. These weren't just random settlements. They were organized societies with chiefs, spirit mediums, and thriving trade networks. Challenges and legacy. The Mbire's early migrations weren't without hurdles. Crossing the Zambezi meant facing new environments, rival groups, and the challenge of building a new home. Yet, their resilience shone through. The Mbire dynasty laid the foundation for the Karanga Empire, which built Great Zimbabwe, a city of stone that became a symbol of Shona greatness. This empire, and later the Mutapa Empire, grew from the Mbire early efforts, building Great Zimbabwe, a legacy in stone. By the 11th century, the Shona were building something extraordinary. Great Zimbabwe, a stunning city of stone walls and enclosures. This wasn't just a place to live, it was a symbol of their power and creativity that became the heart of the Karanga Empire. The word Zimbabwe itself comes from the Shona term for houses of stone. Great Zimbabwe became the heart of the Karanga Empire, a trading hub that connected the Shona to Arab and Swahili merchants on the East African coast. Gold, ivory, and other goods flowed through, making the Shona one of the wealthiest societies in southern Africa. The hilltop Acropolis of Great Zimbabwe wasn't just a fortress, it was a sacred space for worshipping Mwari, the Shona's creator god. Spirit mediums, known as Shikiro, played a big role here, channeling ancestors like Tovera and Neander to guide the people. These spiritual connections kept the Shona tied to Guruuswa even as they built new lives far from their original home. The stone walls of Great Zimbabwe, Kami, and Jojo stand today as a testament to their skill and ambition. Challenges and change, empires rise and fall. The Shona's story isn't just about triumphs, it's also about resilience. By the 1500s, the Mutapa Empire faced challenges. Portuguese traders and missionaries arrived, drawn by the region's gold. They built posts along the Zambezi and tried to control trade, but their presence sparked conflict. In 1561, a Portuguese Jesuit, Gonçalo da Silveira, was killed after Swahili traders convinced the Shona king to distrust him. Power struggles among the Mbire weakened the empire, and by the 17th century, the Portuguese briefly controlled parts of it. But the Shona didn't fade away. The Rose Empire rose in response, preserving Shona traditions. The Rose Empire rose in the southwest, reclaiming power and pushing the Portuguese back. The Rose, led by their Changamire kings, kept the Shona's traditions alive, with spirit mediums like Neander and Kaguvi guiding their people. These mediums weren't just spiritual leaders, they were warriors for independence, rallying the Shona during the First Chimurenga Rebellion against British colonists in the 1890s. Spirit mediums like Neander and Kaguvi led rebellions, keeping the Shona's spirit alive. The 19th century brought more upheaval. The Nguni migrations, especially the Ndebele, disrupted Shona lands. The Ndebele, fleeing conflict in South Africa during the Mfecane Wars, settled in western Zimbabwe, absorbing some Shona groups like the Karanga. Later, British and Portuguese colonial rule changed Shona life, introducing Christianity and urban ways that weakened traditional practices. Yet the Shona held onto their identity, with Guruuswa remaining a powerful symbol of their roots. I want us to revisit the issue of banned books and lost histories, which I mentioned earlier. But this history faced destruction. Colonial powers burned books and banned the records of Shona greatness, dismissing places like Great Zimbabwe as primitive. They wanted to erase Guruuswa's story, yet the Shona fought back through oral traditions, stories, songs, and spirit mediums like Neander. They kept their history alive, passing down tales of Guruuswa's magic. The burning and burning of books have long been tools of control, wiping out stories and knowledge that could connect us to our past. Among the Shona people of Zimbabwe, one such lost or suppressed narrative revolves around Guruuswa, a place of deep cultural and spiritual significance. Despite the destruction of written records, oral traditions and surviving accounts keep Guruuswa's story alive. What was the impact of banned and burned books? During the colonial era in Zimbabwe, then Rhodesia, British and Portuguese authorities often banned or destroyed books and records that celebrated African heritage or challenged colonial rule. These included oral histories written down by early African scholars, missionaries, or anthropologists, as well as texts that documented the Shona's origins, migrations, and spiritual practices. Such suppression aimed to erase indigenous identities and replace them with colonial narratives, weakening the Shona's connection to places like Guruuswa. For example, works that detailed the Shona's sophisticated empires like Great Zimbabwe or the Mutapa state were sometimes dismissed as primitive or attributed to foreign builders in colonial literature. Books that recorded the power of spirit mediums like Neander, who drew on Guruuswa's legacy to lead rebellions, were seen as threats and targeted for destruction. This loss of written records left gaps in the historical narrative, but the Shona's oral traditions, shared through storytelling, songs like Tovera Mdzimudzoka and Mbira music, kept Guruuswa's story alive. Guruuswa's lasting legacy. Today, Guruuswa lives on in the hearts of the Shona. It's not just a distant memory, but a source of pride and connection. Songs and stories celebrate ancestors like Tovera. Songs like Tovera Mdzimudzoka call on ancestors, and Mbira music echoes their spirit. The phrase, "We come from Guruuswa," rings with pride. Despite lost books, the Mbire's legacy lives on in Shona culture. Their migration stories, passed down through songs and oral traditions, celebrate their journey from Guruuswa. Ancestors like Tovera and Murenga remain heroes, while the dynasty's emphasis on spirituality and community still shapes Shona identity. The stone walls of Great Zimbabwe and the Mondoro spirits tied to the land are reminders of the Mbire's bold first steps. Even as modern life and Christianity blend with traditional ways, the Shona's history of migration and resilience shines through. Their stories of ancestors like Murenga and Neander remind us of people who traveled far, built great things, and never forgot where they came from. In short, the Mbire Dynasty and their first migrations were the spark that lit the Shona's rise. From Guruuswa to the Zimbabwe Plateau, they carried their skills, beliefs, and dreams, building a legacy that endures in the heart of every Shona person today. Next, let's move on to frequently asked questions about the linkages between Guruuswa and the Shona peoples of Zimbabwe. The first question: what is Guruuswa and why is it important to the Shona people? Guruuswa, meaning long grass in Shona, is the legendary homeland of the Shona people believed to be in East Central Africa, possibly Tanzania or the Great Lakes region. It's seen as the cradle of Shona identity, where their ancestors like Mbire and Tovera originated. Guruuswa is more than a place, it's a spiritual and cultural symbol of their beginnings, tying them to their creator god Mwari and ancestral spirits Mondoro, who guide them in life, reign, and battles. Question number 2. How did the Shona people migrate from Guruuswa to Zimbabwe? Around 2000 years ago, the Shona's ancestors, known as the Mbire, joined the Bantu migration moving south from Guruuswa. Drawn by fertile lands and resources like salt, they crossed the Zambezi River between 1000 and 1050 AD, settling in the Zimbabwe plateau. Led by figures like Mutota, they brought farming, ironwork, and stone building skills, establishing communities that grew into powerful empires like Munhumutapa and Great Zimbabwe. Question number 3. What role did Guruuswa play in Shona spiritual beliefs? Guruuswa is the spiritual heart of the Shona, where their ancestors and Mondoro spirits originated. The Shona believe these spirits, like Tovera and Nehanda, connect them to Mwari, their creator god. Spirit mediums, Shikiro, channel these ancestors to offer guidance, ensuring prosperity and protection. Guruuswa's sacred legacy lives in rituals, songs, and the Shona's deep respect for their ancestral roots. Question number 4. How did the Mbire Dynasty connect Guruuswa to Shona history? The Mbire Dynasty, led by early leaders like Mutota, was the Shona's first organized society after leaving Guruuswa. As descendants of Guruuswa's ancestors, they carried its traditions south, founding the Mutapa Empire and building Great Zimbabwe. The dynasty's leaders, advised by spirit mediums, kept Guruuswa's spiritual and cultural influence alive, shaping Shona governance, trade, and identity. Question number 5. Why is Great Zimbabwe linked to Guruuswa? Great Zimbabwe, built in the 11th century, was a masterpiece of the Shona's Karanga Empire, rooted in the Mbire's migration from Guruuswa. Its stone walls and acropolis were not just a city, but a spiritual center for worshipping Mwari and honoring ancestors from Guruuswa. The city's trade in gold and ivory reflected the skills and ambition the Shona brought from their homeland. Question number 6. How do modern Shona people honor their Guruuswa heritage? Today, the Shona keep Guruuswa alive through oral traditions, songs, and rituals. Phrases like, "We come from Guruuswa," express pride in their origins. Songs like Tovera Mzimu Dzoka call on ancestors for healing, while Mbira music and stone sculptures echo Guruuswa's legacy. Spirit mediums still guide communities, blending traditional beliefs with modern life. Question number 7. Did colonialism affect the Shona's connection to Guruuswa? Yes, British and Portuguese colonialism in the 19th century introduced Christianity and urban lifestyles, which challenged traditional Shona practices. However, the Shona resisted through rebellions like the First Murenga, led by spirit mediums like Nehanda, who drew on Guruuswa's spiritual power. Despite changes, Guruuswa remains a symbol of resilience and identity for the Shona today. We come to an end. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, share, subscribe, and please don't skip ads. Thank you for watching. Till we meet next time for the next episode.